Hi everyone, good morning. Hi guys. Hi Clarissa, hi Brittany. It's so good to see y'all. Well, not see y'all, but you get what I mean. It's so good to have you here. This morning I want to talk to you guys about how important it is to plan your content in advance, to really make sure that you're staying visible in your business and like really getting out of your own way as far as like putting yourself out there. So I'm Lacey. I'm a business and content creation coach for women entrepreneurs, and I'm so happy to have y'all here. And the first thing I want to talk about is how to start cultivating inspiration so your planning process is easier. So one of the main things that I hear when people say that they're having trouble creating content to put out for their business. Hi. I do. You're totally my muse, Carrie. I just figure whatever we're talking about, I'm going to scope about. That's so funny. So I basically think that the idea that we have to be inspired to create content has like really created a lot of like stress and, negative mindsets around creating content and putting yourself out there. So like people, talk a lot about how they're inspired to make this post, and all of that is awesome, and it's great if you have that inspiration flowing. You should definitely go with it. But when you're not feeling inspired, there's also plenty of ways to cultivate inspiration. So, do whatever feels good to you. Get outside, read your favorite book, go for a walk, play with your dog, play with your kids, whatever like makes you feel in that happy place. Do that. Like whatever you do, don't just sit in front of your computer like trying and trying and trying, right? Like do things that cultivate your inspiration and get into that place before you start trying to create content and plan it. Like take charge and see yourself as powerful and hold yourself as powerful. Don't see yourself at the mercy of your inspiration, right? Like get out there and make it happen. Okay, so cultivate your inspiration, do whatever you have to do is the first step, right? So like get into that really great place before you start planning. The next step to creating your content in advance is creating categories and themes around it. So I always have my clients create at least 5 categories and then at least 5 themes under each category that relate back to their business and message. So categories are basically like big pieces of your business. Like you could talk about them for days and days and days. Like there's so many layers to them. You could go on forever. And these are like the main points of your business, right? So like if you're a health coach, it might be, grocery shopping, meal planning, healthy recipes, like things like where you could, talk about it forever. And then under healthy recipes, it might be like breakfast, lunch, dinner as your themes, right? Where like you could still talk a lot about it, but it's like more specific. So themes fall under each category and you can go in depth about them, but not as much. So the reason we create categories and themes is because what you want to do is make sure that you're always cycling through all of the information you want to share in your business. And you also want to make sure you're always staying on message. So if I have 5 categories and then I have 5 themes under each category, technically I have 25 weeks of content right there, right? If I'm using a theme a week. And then if I circle through them, right? So like category 1, theme A, category 2, theme A, category 3, theme A, right? And then I continue that circle. I'm like making sure that I'm always talking about everything relevant in my business, that I'm keeping my audience like on their toes and like always changing up the things that I'm talking about. And I'm making sure that I'm becoming an expert in my message, right? So it's kind of like last week how we talked about just because you can talk about something doesn't mean you should. So that's the same premise here of creating categories and themes, is remembering that like you want to stay on message and you want to stay consistent. So by creating these categories and themes and then cycling through it, you're consistent every week, you're always on message, and you're always sharing a variety of things in your business. So let's go through an example of like what that would look like. So one of my clients is a health coach, and I always use her as an example because it's easy to create categories and themes for her. So like we were talking about earlier, say one of the themes is like recipes, right? So you could do that in multiple ways. So it could be like breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks. It could be, quick, under 5 minutes, under 3 ingredients, like low calorie, high, like high nutrient content, whatever, right? So she could spend an entire week then going and talking about just breakfast recipes or just recipes that are quick and easy, right? So that whole week, her content would focus on that message. So, one, she's becoming an expert on that message. And two, she's showing that she can really go in depth on a topic, right? When we post about something new every day, we're not really branding ourselves as an expert, and we're not really showing our ability to like go in depth and like really talk about a topic and show like our worth and our value. So that would be why creating categories and themes is also important in the sense of like showing up and being an expert. Then it's also important because it makes you visible when you have a plan of how to show up, right? Like how often have you been like, I'm going to post tomorrow, I'm going to write a blog post, I'm going to post on Facebook, I'm going to show up in Facebook groups, and then you just don't because you're like, oh, I can't really think of anything, oh, I didn't have time to write the blog post, whatever. And that really becomes detrimental to your business. Oh, I saw one little heart. Thank you. That really becomes detrimental to your business because you're going to, yay, now I got lots of them. Thank you. That becomes so detrimental to your business because what you're doing is putting yourself in this position where you're like constantly at the mercy of like whatever your inspiration is, right? So like if you do that all the time, right? Like it's so interesting how easy it is for us to get in our own way with that. And we sit there in front of our computers and think like, oh, I must be bad at what I'm doing because I'm not feeling super inspired and I can't come up with like a crazy amazing blog post right on the spot, or I can't like wow everyone on Facebook in a minute, right? So if you're planning in advance and you're staying on message and on theme, it's so much easier to come up with that. Like, so I know like what blog posts I'm writing for like probably the next 6 months. I mean, you can always change it up, of course. Like if you are feeling inspired, that's totally cool. But to have that like ability to know like this is what I'm talking about this week and this is how I'm going to show up for my clients and this is how I'm going to show up like in Facebook groups, on my business page, whatever, is such an empowering feeling because you're not going to have that moment where you're standing in your own way and you're keeping yourself from being visible. So to recap a little bit, cultivate your own inspiration. Don't be at the mercy of what you feel like is inspired action. I think inspired action is amazing and I totally follow that, train of thought in my business. But when it comes to content, sometimes you just got to make stuff happen and you got to cultivate your own inspiration. So get outside, do what you got to do. Create categories, which are like the top 5 things in your business that you focus on. Then create themes around those categories and make sure that the themes are like for weekly sharing. So build everything that you're sharing that week around that theme so you can go in depth and show up as an expert. The last part is like don't let it get in your way. Like, show up, share the content, be visible, share your theme. One of the questions I get a lot is, do I have to say like my theme this week is? And no, you don't really have to say that. You just have to show up and share on that topic, right? Like sometimes I tell people in my Facebook group, okay, this is the theme of what we're doing this week. Like this week in my Facebook group, the Lit Up and Loaded Entrepreneur, we'd love to have you. We all talked about how this was our theme for the week, planning content. So they knew like this is our theme for the week. This is my theme for the week as far as like the content I'm putting out. But I don't always do that. So do what feels good to you. You don't have to like make it this really obvious thing that you're trying to create themes and cycle them through in your business, but just show up, post about it, be visible, be authentic, and plan it out in advance so you can't continue to hold yourself back. If you guys have any questions, feel free to post them. If not, I hope this was helpful to you. Sometimes people get a little stuck on their categories and themes and like, what is a category? What is a theme? So I would love for you to join my Facebook group, the Lit Up and Loaded Entrepreneur, and we can give you feedback on that. You can share your categories with us. We can talk about what that looks like for you. Okay, thank you guys so much. I hope that you have a wonderful day. Bye.